Yeah. So first of all, I looked it up. Godfather 2 is 3 hours and 22 minutes. This is 3 hours and 47 minutes. So my 10 minutes difference was not correct. It's 25 minutes different. All right, welcome back, everybody. I started to go into my talking about the big stuff intro.
You did. I heard that. It was like, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to talking about the big stuff.
All right. Today we're going to be continuing our best cinematography, best picture month. And we're talking about Lawrence of Arabia. So we're going back 25 years from last week's episode, but we're sticking with Peter O'Toole. We originally wanted to do these in chronological order, but because we weren't sure what the availability of this one was going to be, we pushed it off a week. But this was like my big pick that I was really excited about.
Like I was so excited, I wasn't sure if I should have purchased it, so I purchased it, and I'm really glad I purchased it.
I did too. I mean, it was only $15.
Yeah, hey, 15, dude. It was like 8 on Amazon. It's half off.
Oh, I bought it. I got it on Apple.
No.
But that's where all my movies are, so I can watch them on my iPad and stuff. So
exactly.
If I'm on a plane,
yeah,
All right, so Lawrence of Arabia.
Pre-production for me, my biggest hit for this is, regardless of what era T.E. Lawrence was in the film, when he was, before he gets deployed or after he gets deployed, myth is it's myth in a human body. So Lawrence is refined and theatrical and impulsive as a character, but the way that he's framed he's always portrayed as he's groomed too well and he's too well lit. Later in the film, you even see like him shaving, and Prince or Sheriff Ali is like, "You're wasting water." So
yeah,
his framing's always like a holy figure in the film, and the way that he's not well adjusted, he's just well staged, really hit for me pre-production wise. With our focus for this episode being depth of field and scale.
Depth of field and scale. I mean, there is no better movie probably ever made than this movie to talk about depth of field and scale.
Fantastic.
Because you think about other, there's lots of giant epic movies. People talk about Cleopatra, or these giant sword and sandal movies where they had 10,000 extras and all. Gandhi, I think, had 10,000 extras, and then you talk about these giant movies, and this is a giant movie in a lot of those same ways. But
and the year reminds me of how much work is to get this many actors like in a scene at one time. Yeah.
But you also think about the sometimes when you're talking about those big movies, they're packing a lot of people into a small area to make that look bigger, right?
Yeah.
And this movie has there's the most famous, if you're a YouTube movie critic, or you've probably talked about that but the introduction to Sheriff Ali, where Omar Sharif plays Sheriff Ali, and he is riding in the distance, like literally from the horizon to the camera, and there's some cuts.
Yes.
But you have they actually sent, I don't know if it was him or if it was a stand-in or whatever, because in the distance it doesn't matter that much, but they sent somebody to the horizon, probably with like a
second unit or something,
like long wave radio or whatever, and we're like, all right, come on back now, and which probably took an hour or two, hours to do.
And that's not the only time that shot's used. So the flat view, all characters on horizon with no background or foreground, so it looks like a flat postcard, right?
Well, and
Like
yeah,
that's used more than once in the film. That scene is one of the better uses of that shot, but
right.
there are 3 or 4 like memories in the
Yes.
film where it's just dudes on horizon, no background and foreground. So it's like
Yeah.
absolute shallow, but it looks huge because
Well,
it was
there's
just like a continuous line in the bottom third.
so one thing that this movie does that we've seen other movies kind of do, but never to this effect, is when you're talking about distance and heat, right? We've
Yeah.
seen the road shimmering with the heat in the distance, and that I usually think of the American West when you think of that, like
Mhm.
when you think of like Easy Rider or something where they're shooting down down the road and you see that shimmer. But what was interesting about the desert and the use of it and so much of it is when Lawrence is coming back from at one point Lawrence goes to save a man who fell off his camel and they didn't
Yes. Yep.
realize till the camel caught up and he goes back to save him, and they are ridiculously thirsty and they're trudging through the sand and they're on the verge of death
Mhm.
essentially. And we see that same, it's all desert, there's the horizon in the distance and there's the shimmer. And what the shimmer does in that moment is because you and I have probably never been to a desert in that way, right? Like you may have driven through like the desert in California or whatever, but you've never been to a desert where you like we've all heard the stories about mirages and like that, like when you're thirsty and the shimmer of the heat makes you think that there's water in the distance. There was that shot. I'm like, oh, are they? Because they were heading towards the ocean or the sea. That's where their destination is in that journey. And I'm like, oh, are they almost there because there's the water? No, there wasn't water. It was the shimmer of, and I
Mhm.
was not thirsty and in the desert, and I was being
Right.
tricked by the visuals.
Yep.
And it wasn't, this is 1962. They're not doing CGI. They're not even probably doing any like optical illusions. They're just
That
capturing
was just
what actually was going on,
yeah.
which, like, give them the Oscar for that, right? Like, that's it was amazing. I was like, holy crap! Like
Yeah.
once I realized that it wasn't what I thought it was, I was like, that is so impressive. And like now you can understand how if you're seeing that in real life and you have the added like I'm thirsty, I've been in the sun for a day or whatever it's been.
Yeah. And there was a lot of times where the camera would capture, even for the sense of scale. This was a big part for me. Even when the shots were inside buildings, which there were maybe 3 or 4 scenes that were inside a building that stood out, there was
Mm-hmm.
always something out the window
Mm-hmm.
behind the actors that mostly was static, but every once in a while there was something going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Well, and
go ahead.
and and they sorry, I was gonna say they use because the architecture is different in hotter places, right?
Mhm.
Specifically, it probably in the Middle East, it is probably different than a lot of other places. But I've been to hot places where like Florida, California, Hawaii, Africa, like where it's different than here, where everything's kind of closed to keep heat in. Like even like we have windows and stuff, our windows are insulated, they're fairly small parts of the wall. You go
Mhm.
somewhere hotter and like in the buildings and the architecture in this movie, there are these windows and doorways that are not glass, they are open air,
And they're
and they
huge.
are 20 feet wide
Mhm.
doorways. These aren't French doors, these are like French doors on French doors, like, and so you're getting to see the entire. They're in Damascus at that point, or I'm losing track of where the
That's
British
one of the
command
times.
was.
Yeah, that's one of the times that there was that shot specifically when the general is like speaking on his desk and he's looking, and there's the onion domes like way, way,
Hmm.
way out in the background, and that 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 set, if you will, you could have put that desk he's at anywhere, but
Hmm.
again, because this was the '60s, that was just going on set and the director of photography and the cinematographer looking at the space and saying, okay, how can we get the biggest possible sense of scale? and it's to
Yeah.
shoot something with something very far in the distance, and then the actor moving in like your mostly foreground and delivering lines, and then the background looking nearly static but also 10 miles away, right?
Yeah.
So there were two or three scenes that were inside buildings that gave me that feel, but the outside shots in the desert, which was Spain, Morocco,
Jordan.
and Jordan, were the three areas that this was filmed.
Hmm.
Those spaces are some of the largest that I've ever seen on film. But there's also the idea that knowing what few post production tricks or technology could be used to add depth or scale, none of that exists here. So it is
Right.
100%. We're shooting this on, outside in the middle of nowhere, essentially, but also the
Mhm.
idea of all the equipment, all of the film canisters, because how fast does 70 millimeter get spent in comparison
Yeah.
to regular film? Doesn't it go by the aperture faster? So it's using more film per second, or no?
Um, realistically, it's shot, 24 frames per second would be a little bit, 24 frames, as you get larger is going to be larger, but they also typically have the reels bigger. So you're, like you might have a 16 millimeter might be 100-foot reel is this big, or a 400-foot reel is this big. A
Yeah.
35 millimeter is a little bit bigger.
So it's larger and
Um,
heavier.
yeah, but also like film is heat sensitive, and that is
Oh shit! Yeah.
another. That's another thing that like I don't know if they had refrigeration units
I
or
was about to say
what, but
we
like,
experienced that when we shot with the Kodak Cine E
mhm,
over at the local airport. Mike and I went out and test shot for another project we're working on, airplanes landing and taking off from the observation deck, and we had
yeah.
to carry the film in a cooler
I don't know
and
that we
take.
had to, but like
It was a good idea.
everyone online was like, keep this as fucking cool as you can, like
Yeah,
it's
it was
because
also
it's
ISO one,
one,
not
which
100 one.
arguably made it safer,
It
than
did.
if it was a higher
So
ISO. But
so yeah, you're right. Like even these outdoor shots with all of the you know uh, uh, actor actor services that could possibly be there to keep them ready to perform, but then
yeah,
all of this heavy equipment, and also I have a hard enough time shooting smoothly on concrete, let alone in the sand. Okay, that is another thing I just thought of. There are only two shots in this entire film that were probably like manually controlled, because you saw a little bit of that bobbing from someone carrying the rig and then just natural movement of their body. Every other scene in this had to be dolly, crane, or somehow like very big equipment to stabilize this, because they're
mhm.
on sand. That shit shifts and settles.
You are right, but also heavier equipment has less jitter.
True.
So when you're talking about these 70 millimeter cameras, they are probably ridiculously heavy. And so like the little bit of jitter that I noticed as well is like during the like the when they're riding alongside the other camels, like that had to be a fuck ton of jitter to be seen on that 70 millimeter. Like they had to be like this with the
Yeah,
camera
yeah,
to notice what we noticed, because even like if you handheld one of those 70 millimeters and just did this, it's going to come out as smooth as can be,
yeah.
because it's just so much weight. Unless you like, trip or something. Like if you're just doing this, it's going to be pretty smooth compared to when we're filming with, like a camera that weighs what, 6 pounds or whatever.
Yeah.
All geared up, it's like maybe 11 pounds. They're talking about probably 50-pound cameras or more, at minimum. So
So I'm
it's
trying
not,
to
they're
find,
not doing the same thing.
yeah, I'm trying to find the weight of this, and I can see like the
Good
modern
luck.
I know. I could see the modern equivalents are like 10 pounds, 15 pounds.
Yep.
So Panavision Gold is 60-pound rig. And that was from the later 70, mid 70s. The Panaflex lightweight, that was the lightweight, was 60 pounds. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is a lot of equipment to have out in the middle of the damn desert
Yep.
and
Yeah.
filming to this scale.
And just so everybody understands, if you watch this movie, and because they don't say a lot of what are the modern names of places, right? I mean, Damascus is still city names, yes, but we don't. We hear Arabia now. Arabia is the entire
Aqaba
Middle
isn't
East,
around anymore.
right? Well, Aqaba is still around. It's just not what it was, right?
Sorry, that's what I meant. Not the same thing.
But
No.
but the point, but so you know, we said that they shot in Jordan. Jordan is where most of this movie takes place.
Yeah.
And so like that's like Morocco has like a lot of good options for shooting because it's so close to Europe, and especially if they were in Spain, you can like literally see Morocco across the Strait of Gibraltar. Like it's not far. Jordan is as remote, like everything that goes on in this movie. They obviously had planes and cars and stuff to help them in transport, whereas Lawrence didn't. But like they are in the remoteness of that, they went out to that. It's not like they just were like, oh, this is a good piece of desert for us to go shoot at. Now, some of that was Spain to look like, but still, it is really, really impressive, the scale in that sense. When I said, depth of field and scale, I meant visually, but also the scale of the production is incredible.
The scale of the production here is huge, and it's not that we have Obi-Wan Kenobi as Prince Faisal. It's not that we have Peter O'Toole and his eyeliner as T.E. Lawrence. It is or Omar Sharif as Sheriff Ali. There's so much to this that I can see, like this in the 60s, it's that era's Titanic. It's that era's Matrix. It is like an absolute culmination of all of the possibilities that make a grand epic film without the trap. So this is the other thing I like. This doesn't have all the trappings of 60s movies. There was only one time that I was like, oh, come on. And that's when he wrecks his motorcycle in the very beginning of the film, and like the goggles are dangling from the tree. I was like, oh, please don't be this cheesy for this whole movie. Like, to me, that's just like the cheesy action shot style that you see in like a Bond film, because that's how they show he fell and might have injured himself, dangling glasses or goggles or helmet or whatever. So
Dr. No came out the same year as this, by the way, the first James Bond movie. So that's interesting that you say that.
So that was my false setup for this being cheesy, and it was nothing of the sort.
Was this your first time watching it?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I told Mike before we recorded, I was like, this is the most prepared, this is the most notes I've ever taken, because it was that captivating of an experience to watch on a 28-inch monitor with headphones sitting maybe 3 feet from it, maybe.
There are 5 movies that I want to see in theaters that I've never gotten a chance to see in theaters. Lawrence of Arabia, every few years, like AMC will do a revival of it and will put it in for a weekend, but it's always like a weekend where I have to go see family, or like it's a, some specific thing. So I've never gotten to see it, which drives me crazy. But also, it's hard to like say, like, I'm going to go to the movies for 5 hours.
Right, I'm going to go watch Lawrence of Arabia.
It's not 5 hours long.
I'll be back for dinner, honey.
When you include intermissions and like drive time, it's going to be like basically 5 hours of being gone, right?
Yeah.
So I've never gotten to see it. So my top 5 movies that I want to see in theaters. And I was talking, and Logan goes, I know what the other 3 are. Or I know what 3 of the other ones are. And I was like, oh yeah, what are the other ones? He goes, the Star Wars original trilogy. I'm like, yep. Because I've never seen any of the original Star Wars movies in theaters, because no one in my family would take me when they were released in 96 or 97, because nobody
before
had
episode
interest.
1 came out. Yeah.
And so I've never seen any of the original three in theaters, although the 50th is coming next year, so I should have a chance to see a little bit. And then The Godfather 2 is my other one. I've
Okay.
seen Godfather 1 in theaters, so this is my, that rounds out the Mount Rushmore of movies that I feel like need to be seen in theaters that I haven't been able to see in theaters. Um, I should set like a Google alert for those movies, and we could actually, that'd be kind of a cool thing for us to do for bonus content, is like,
So
going to see these. Especially, I looked into for this one, because you're talking about an aspect ratio. You're talking about a film stock and an aspect ratio that is not common, right?
yeah,
I wanted to see, like, are we seeing some kind of cropped version of it? And
I thought that
the
I was wondering that too.
the short, I looked it up last night, and the short answer is kind of. So if you went to theaters in 1962 and saw this movie, you probably saw the version that we saw. If you went and saw, no, I'm sorry, the version we saw was how it was shot. So this was the 70 millimeter, which is a little more square, because it's the, there's more to it. In the 35 millimeter, some theaters cropped more out so that it was wider aspect ratio. So this is a 2.2 to 1 that we saw. I'm assuming you saw the same thing I saw with the 4K restoration.
Yep.
And so 2.2, that's what it was shot in, essentially, on the 70 millimeter. It was 2.35 for anyone who saw it in 35 millimeter. So we saw it in the original, but like if you went to theaters, you actually would have seen it, unless you went to a special theater, you would have seen a cropped weird, like it wouldn't have looked weird to you. It would just look like super wide comparatively.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I think they had those CinemaScope theaters that were like trying to get
Oh yeah.
from one side of your vision to the other side of your vision, essentially. And so there were other exhibitions of it, but we saw it basically how it was meant to be seen. Other than you apparently saw it on like a screen 3 inches from your face,
Hmm.
and I
Right.
saw it on a 40-inch TV or whatever.
Yeah. And for me, real quick, little technical note. A lot of times, if your TV has HDR, these older films, it screws with it too much. Turn it off.
Mm,
So
yeah.
disable the auto HDR and all of that on your television. These older films, especially now, please keep in mind all HDR, nerd moment, all HDR is not made the same. All HDR is not equal. There are levels of it,
Right.
HDR 400, 600, 800,000. Unless you have a television that is above like the 600 HDR, rarely is it able to do HDR content appropriately, even when it is Ultra HD HDR specific. So older
Hmm.
films, when we've watched them, I turn off any of those enhancement settings and I just watch it as raw as that device will output it.
Right.
And in
HDR
this,
wasn't really made for film either. It's made
no,
for
no, no, it
digital.
wasn't. It was made for digital and television and games more. So
Mhm.
for me, the scene that triggered this, I was like, "What's going on?" Is when he's in the desert sleeping with his first handler before he gets killed by not Faisal,
But Sheriff Ali.
before he gets killed by Sheriff Ali. Um, when they're lying down in the desert, like the desert looked all like dark. The whole scene looked dark right before the morning when they're lying down for the first time. And then I turned HDR off and like the sand turned that like golden hue. And I was like, it's HDR. That's what I had turned on. So I flipped that setting and it looked full for the rest of the hours that it went.
This movie it does all of the visual things you want it to do, but it also is it has the story to do those visual things. So like you mentioned before we
Yeah.
started shooting, that not Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, was it Chitty
Shitty,
Chitty
shitty,
Bang
bang, bang.
Bang, was shot in the same format, and it's like, why? But like when you look at like what this movie was filmed in, and then you look at the other movies that were filmed or exhibited on CinemaScope, or like all those different things, there isn't much there that stands out as being like, oh yeah, I understand why. Like this movie is in that, like if you said it was like Cleopatra or Spartacus or like these other movies of the time that were grand, epic, movies, you'd be like, okay, that makes sense. But the other movies filmed on this weren't that and weren't, like, it's kind of like when we talked about, was it American Fiction? I think that I forget which one you were saying like, oh, if it had had more cinematography and stuff, that you would have liked it better. And I said, well, wouldn't that have kind of like overblown the story? This story is so grand and epic that like you couldn't overblow it. Whereas I think that people back
Okay,
then
I,
were
I
trying to
remember that.
shoot like this for like, oh, like if you saw like a Woody Allen movie, like that, if you saw like Annie Hall and it had this cinematography, you'd be like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah. And we've discussed in episodes in the past. It sounds like the cinematographer, the DP, like really wanted to like flex a muscle,
Yeah,
and they were out of step with the feeling of the film or the intention of the work. Like they just didn't have it on point. You know?
right, right.
Yeah.
And so like that's where I think that this movie is like it they picked the right story to do this with.
Yep.
The scale, and I kind of am curious because like when we talk, like this movie doesn't come into play when you talk about some of those big movies that of the time that were like these huge undertakings, like that where like Cleopatra almost bankrupted the studio, and there were a never movie like that could
Godfather.
never be made again because, well, no, Godfather is not that big of a scale of a movie when you talk about the making of it. I'm talking about like
Oh, when you said the
because of
go broke thing, I was like between one and two. One barely happened. Two had the budget of dreams because
yes,
one
yeah,
was
yeah.
so successful. Yeah, that's more
But
what
I'm
I
talking
meant.
about like, yeah, I'm talking more like those movies where you're like, this movie they've put so much into it that it could sink the studio,
Oh yeah.
or like and
Or
I
they get every
think
good actor, and the movie just goes because there's too many
yeah.
good cooks in the kitchen. Yeah, I know what you're talking
There's
about.
there's no argument that this is like a small scale as far as like the amount of extras and stuff, but I don't know that like when you look at other movies of the time, those other grand epics, they may have had like way more than this, and this movie was able to use things like we're shooting a mile back from a cliff top, shooting like there's lots of that, and it's like I don't know what that number of people is. That could be 500 people
Good
and
point.
like 2,000 horses.
Yeah.
Like 2,000 horses isn't going to be nearly as expensive, or camels or whatever, as hiring 2,000 extras and bringing them to the desert to shoot. And so like I don't know that they didn't just like mount like flags on and like different things to like like they may very well have been smart about using that stuff and said, let's maybe the cinematography helps make up for that, and that distance. And there is lots and lots of shots. The grandest of shots in this movie tend to have 1 to 5 people in it. There's
It's more
that shot.
environment than it is actors.
It's environment, and it gives that, and it uses, while yes, I mean, their numbers are supposed to be low pretty often in the movie, right? At one point they say like you're gonna go invade with 50 people, and then but also they're in the desert, which is very like we talked about it last week with like the one kid in this massive city,
Yeah.
this massive palace, and like there's space, it gives that ability to isolate, and the desert very much can do that, and they use that to show the distance between people and the closing the distance. And there's a lot of creative choices that I think probably helped to not require, oh, let's bring in 10,000 extras, or let's have, there isn't a whole lot of stuff that I would guess was like sets to be designed. Like they have tents and they're in the desert.
Well,
There's
and
not,
and yeah,
and
and
even
I think that was the only
I was gonna say
temporary set
even
because
like
everything else, the set was even the desert or the set was those buildings that they filmed in for the interior scenes. Like everything else is
right, and I would guess
the earth.
And I would guess those buildings are probably actually filmed in buildings like that with actual backgrounds like that. I would,
Yeah.
like, whereas when you talk about something like Cleopatra, because you're going further back in time, also, that is part of the reason why they were built, some of those movies were building these giant epic sets because she needs to be coming down from a brand new pyramid or whatever, like, not pyramid, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, these things have to be new. This is only 40 years removed, essentially. 40 years removed, 50 years removed from what's going on in the movie. And if you're shooting in the desert, you really don't have much to do there. So the few shots of that are in buildings that are showing outside those buildings, you just have to get the right angle of the city and it will look like it did 50 years earlier. So like you're
Yeah.
not talking about having to build, so like the camera work takes care of a lot of that, I think, in this movie. And so like again, it's just a testament to the cinematography of the film.
It is. And Freddie Young, who was the cinematographer for this specific work, like he really shot the scenes where it, it's a barren desert. You know, it's a barren desert. We're aware of this as the lines the characters are speaking, but also the visuals that we have. But there's a lot of times when just that world gets deleted visually because it is just so barren and empty that I kept having flashbacks to when I was a teenager watching Star Wars films, like scenes on Hoth or
Mm-hmm.
scenes or any of the scenes that are also in the more modern films. And it, it looks so striking to see any color costumes
Mm-hmm.
against that or in front of that backdrop, let alone Lawrence or Oren's, um, like in his white, right? In that
Yeah.
white getup that he wears about halfway through the film when they like anoint him with this after he
Yeah.
gets his British military uniform burned in the campfire. It is just like at 1 hour 56, there was that dust storm that made the weather look like a genuine danger.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when the two handlers are with him that he hires so they don't get killed. And they point and it's a dust storm and he actually thought it was another mirage. And then only like 6 or so minutes later, they ride west, and that's another one of those straight horizon as wide as your eyes can see it, black ground, golden red sunset, and just black silhouettes just on this line. I
Mm-hmm.
just got chills again. Like on this line, it in a theater in the 60s that must have changed people's lives,
Yeah.
let alone seeing it like at home on my monitor, but just that in a theater experience in the 60s must um Young and Lean's rhythm that they had for this film was like a long patient build and then
Mm-hmm.
a sudden emotional payoff, especially as some of the battle scenes started happening later on in the film. um the the history of Lawrence of Arabia and his real actions around or post World War One, it is it is it is interesting to see the way the color palette and the editing and the action changed as he became more sympathetic to the Arab cause.
Mm-hmm.
And he started to go through that like internal conflict. Am I sympathizing with British interests? Am I sympathizing with Israel interest? Am I sympathizing with Arab interest? When you moving all between these, you see the editing like they're pulling in on his face more often. There's more of those really close shots. Like so much of the editing started pulling in on faces more often. And the earlier film, the editing was always big, epic expanses. So
Yeah.
one of the first times that I was taken by an edit was when Lawrence, who is the name of his first handler that gets killed by Sheriff Ali?
I don't know.
So
I'm
his first
sorry.
handler, right? No, you're fine. His
Yeah, yeah,
first
yeah.
handler, when they're riding off in the distance and you have those mountains on either side creating that perfect V,
Yeah.
and they're riding up and then so there were a couple of moments when like some fine sand got blown up in a breeze, and it
Mhm.
and it diffused some of the sharpness. Well, it's already kind of soft, but it
Mhm.
diffused some of the sharpness on the front of those, or in front of those mountainy bits that were coming
Mhm.
down in that V shape. And I rewound it like 3 or 4 times, and in my notebook, I kept writing out a time code, and I looked at it and I thought, wait, is that like a focus shift and a smooth like transition edit? Or is that just, nope, that's the environment doing that. And they left it in. And that is fantastic. There are many moments where again, because there's no digitizing post-production stuff, if there
Yeah.
was weather, it was genuinely filmed on site. If
There
there
were
was wind, if there was this or that, like it was genuinely filmed
yeah.
on site. If they created it with some wind machines, sure, but it's genuinely filmed on site. And there were only a
Yeah.
couple of moments when the audio didn't sync, or the audio wouldn't be quite right with the voices, or they would change perspective during conversations and you'd hear the audio and the lines not really line up perfectly. But
Yeah.
like those are so minor editing because I'm looking for them in the 60s.
Yeah.
I would not be thinking, well, that's kind of amateur. Like, no.
So I want to say, because I know what you're talking about with the dust blowing in front of, and there is some shots where it does that, but there is one shot at least where it blows, and because it's such a cloud, it uses it as a transition. Like there is definitely
Yeah, yeah,
one
yeah,
that's a
yeah, yeah.
transition.
There is one when it
And
did that. That's true.
and it's funny because one of the transitions that, again, if you watch a lot of YouTube cinema, like commentary, everyone talks about the him having the match and blowing it out, and as he blows it out, it changes to
Yes.
the
Yep.
desert. But I think that there was a lot of other really amazing transitions in this
That
movie.
was my
Like,
least favorite transition because it was obvious. I knew the match one I
yeah,
knew was coming. The other ones were just so organic.
yeah,
Using the space or using a pan or using an actor coming in
yep,
on a camel or a horse. Like they felt more natural, like
yes,
literary transitions. The match one was just like good film craft.
right. Well,
And
and I think
when I
when
first
you
saw
look
that,
at
I
the
hoped that didn't continue. I was like, okay, that's
right,
cute, that's cool, but I want
it makes
more
it also
natural, and I
that
got it.
the match one makes sense to be a sharper edit than the others too,
Yeah,
because you're going from British high command or whatever to him out in the desert
with Bedouins.
with meeting his Bedouin guide, right? And
Yeah.
so like you're literally like, oh, world change, and then
Mhm.
everything else from there is just scene changes. And it's just like, oh yeah,
True.
we're transferred along the same route, right? And so those to be smoother, gentler transitions works, whereas that is such a sharp change because we're going from hello officer, tut tut, and now to like you're in the desert with a
Yeah.
guide and you are riding your camel. You are you're hundreds of miles from anybody else, you know.
Hundreds of miles
Uh,
from water, having
yeah,
to trek at night and sleep during the day because you'd probably perish if you tried to do it to do the
yeah,
trek during the day. So my angle, my one phrase angle for editing is the edits didn't create action. It created inevitability
yeah,
with what was about to take place. And even in the battle scenes that are later on in the film, there were some fantastic transitions, but they all felt in service to what was going on. They didn't become the highlight or the I didn't go, oh, that was a cool transition. It just felt more organic to move. Whereas the match one, yes, it's intended to be abrupt. It's good, but
yeah,
it fit its purpose.
yeah,
The editing on this film was, so David Lean was the director. The editing on this film was done by uh, Ann Coates. So Ann V. Coates uh, did the editing work, and her other works are Elephant Man. Oh, Aaron Brockovich. 50 Shades of
Mhm.
Grey. The Golden Compass. Out of Sight. Murder on the
Damn.
Orient Express. In the Line of Fire. What About Bob? Unfaithful. So there are a lot of some of the striptease. There are a lot of even a little more modern films that
I mean,
she has
50 Shades
done.
of Grey. That's a huge.
Yep,
That's like 50 years apart from each other. That's a
it is. Yep,
huge.
that was 2015, and she did that as well.
Damn.
So I know. So this this woman has a history. Has a history.
I would love to like hear an interview with her. Like, what? You've worked
I
on some really classic films like Lawrence of Arabia. What is your favorite project? 50 Shades of
Well,
Grey.
50 Shades of Grey or Eric Brockovich. So for me, also, I would, I'm always wanting to listen to director and actor commentary. I really want to watch this film with specific BTS director, editor, cinematographer commentary. Like, I don't mind the actors giving BTS stuff, but I would watch this whole thing with just like the crew talking that aren't the
Yeah,
actors and really get to hear their takes on some of these shots because there are some, especially in the 60s, there are some you got one chance to get this kind of stuff. One.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
And those
Well,
moments were
and
capitalized on.
there's a couple of moments where I felt like that first tornado or sandstorm. I was like, it felt very much because of the placement of the camera. Like, oh, there's a
Yeah.
tornado. like,
Yeah,
like,
true, true. The first
like
one
it
was a
was.
little hairy.
It was no, it wasn't poorly shot, but it just felt like, oh, we actually have a tornado. Let's get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I'm sure they don't know how long those are going to last. Sometimes they probably last a while. Sometimes they last 3 minutes, and you don't have time to do much. But I was really impressed by that. But Omar Sharif is Egyptian. He's genuinely an Arab person. So like that was good casting. Also, he is probably my favorite performance in the movie. Um, I think Peter O'Toole is great, but I think that Omar Sharif is
Better.
spot on like
Yeah.
the characterization, the performance, everything. So that's what I wanted to say for that. And then if
So,
you're cool,
okay.
yeah,
What could have been done better? And this is going to transition into hot takes pretty easily. I don't know enough of the history
yeah,
of T.E. Lawrence.
yeah. This is my hot take. That's what. Yeah,
Yeah. I don't understand enough about the history of T.E. Lawrence to know if he is like the best example or the best vintage example of it's weird because he even transitioned. So early in the film, he reminds me of Sterling Archer
okay.
from no, no,
From
no, no,
Archer,
no,
yeah.
hear me on this. He reminds me of Sterling Archer from Archer, or even like um is Larrabee the dude from Get Smart? I think it is.
I don't remember.
So okay, or not Mr. Bean, but like that stupid, goofy, so maladjusted, but always seems to do the right thing kind of character. Almost like a trolling Mr. Magoo. Like early in the film, his actions, he's like brazen, but dumb like brazen, like SpongeBob SquarePants, stupid brazen. But he seems
I
so
read that.
dopey. He seems so dopey that it isn't like rude. And actually, one of the characters, the dude who's always wearing the gray suit, he's like, I don't know if you're just half stupid or if you're the rudest person in this room and you know what you're doing and you're so backhanded about it. So like he
And then he
starts
said,
that
and he
way.
well, and Lawrence's response is, sometimes neither do I, sir. Like, and
Yeah,
that's
like
why
I
I
don't
think that it
understand enough
is.
about this dude. Are you a fucking troll asshole and you were
Yes.
just hiding it, or you like a lovable dope early in the movie that transitions into this Arab sympathizer, anything for the people. I am no longer like sympathizing with the British. Like like the Aqaba scene when he goes nuts and the two dudes just follow him around and he's just
Yeah.
like holding onto that rock. Like he goes nuts. And
Yeah.
and there are so many scenes where they pull in close on his face. He is too well groomed to be in the desert. His face is never dirty. He's never covered like every once in a while the makeup on Prince Faisal, Alec Guinness. You can see where they tried to darken his skin tone on like his
Yeah.
cheeks and like above his eyebrows, and it looks a little fake. And also, I know the British accents are weird for Middle Eastern people, but back then that's really how the aristocrats of Arab nations spoke. Because back
Yeah.
then, and even somewhat now, the the people that they wanted to mimic were the most wealthy, most aristocratic, and most well appointed of the world, and to them, those were the British. So a
Right.
lot of them would characterize themselves with those actions and those and that body language because it made them feel or seem more austere. Now, you're agreeing with me that you think he is just king fucking troll and he knows what he's doing the whole time and he is such a narcissist. He's like, I'm the most badass dude here. Like him refusing water and refusing food like he's some hero. Like there's so many actions that because I don't know a lot about him, I don't know if it's just him being like intentionally recklessly evil almost.
I think that,
And like he loved murdering, but then hated it
yeah.
too.
All right. So I think that okay, in regards to the beginning of the movie, who he is at the beginning, I think that he already knows that that the way that the British look at the Arabs is wrong. I think he already is there. And I think there's a
So
disdain
he has
for
empathy
his.
for him early, or empathy for the Arab people early on
I think so.
as a whole
Basically,
class. Okay.
I think he realizes, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think he realizes that that the British do this to everybody, right? They go in and they use them when they're useful, and whatever, and he knows that that's the way things go, and he
Yeah.
thinks these are people who deserve to be genuinely in charge of their own destiny, and he goes in with, and I think that's why he has almost like a disdain for the British High Command, and that's why he's so like trolly. And I think I think also there's an extent to which he probably thinks this is they all see this as a fool's errand, and that I might not be that this person might not accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, but also might get killed in the process. So why not send the asshole? I think there's enough calculation there that I think that's the
Yeah,
case.
because he even speaks about his assignment to Damascus as being kind of
Yeah, they're setting him on a
send the
suicide
idiot.
mission.
Yeah, yeah, Lawrence and the dude in the gray suit. I need to remember his name. Um, they even speak about that as in, well, we
Yeah,
have to send a warm body. And Lawrence even kind of knows that's what he's going into, but not
yeah.
obviously not really, because although he's already in the desert, he's not in the desert yet.
Right. So I think that that's where he goes in, and as far as the like, I'll drink when you drink, and all of those things, I think it's not so much that he's trying to be the hero. And now I think the movie kind of presents it at the beginning like this. This is one of my hot takes, is that this movie could falsely lead you to believe that it is a white savior movie, and it is not. Because the white savior concept, obviously.
Yes, and I'm gonna push back and ask you, how is that not what really took place?
Okay,
Because he started that council. He tried to, because before he even knew that there were tribes and infighting, He knew that it
Mhm.
existed as a British soldier, as a member of the
Yeah.
British military. So when he has that council and he's trying to like be the genuine peacemaker between these two vying sides, are you saying it's not white savior as in doing a solid for not white people? Or are you saying he happens to be white and plays the savior?
I'm saying that I think that like the idea of a white savior, as far as I see it, usually is that we see, like the white guy comes in and fixes everything.
Blindside?
This, yeah, yeah, exactly. Blindside.
Okay.
The white person comes in, they end up fixing everything. Has the trajectory at the beginning, like, oh, he's going to be the white savior. He's going to come in
Oh,
here
he
and
is chaos near the end of this.
right,
Like
right, and
narcissistic chaos.
yes. And so like is that we see the downfall of him. We see that he is, especially when Faisal is meeting with the general and he's like, no, now both of us are rid of him because
Oh, I
Faisal
know.
realizes
Yes. Yep.
that like what I liked about him is gone. Like he like not Faisal's not like I'm done with him because I got my means or my ends. He's done with him because Lawrence isn't the guy he met 6 months or whatever earlier. Who Lawrence has changed and Lawrence has become the
Yes.
bad guy
Yeah,
at
I
the
was about to
end.
mention. So Faisal to me, check me on this. Prince Faisal to me, as for the Arab people, like the same level and rank and decision making and influence as the British generals that Lawrence reported to. So I think that as soon as Faisal noticed that he was going to start sympathizing with the Arabs too much for his liking, he started to see him as like an expendable. Whereas before, he thought he could make him into a useful idiot for Faisal's desires specifically. But then, as soon as he met with and started to be entrenched with the real Arabs and the different tribes, that's when Faisal realized that he became less of an asset and more of a liability. Is that what really took place?
That's not how I read it. I read it as Faisal wanted to unite and wanted all of this to be united. And I think that Lawrence was like, you guys deserve your own uh, independence and your own.
I don't think Faisal wanted that for them. I think Faisal
Ah,
wanted to be in the back pocket with Britain and increase his power and his influence through
it's
his
it's
through his
possible.
connection with Britain. Whereas he realized that being pro-Arab 100% of the time and not trying to be more diplomatic wasn't going to move. It was going to cause tension between the two countries. Faisal is,
Okay,
I thought, such a big connected dude that
yeah,
he's sympathizing too much with the Brits, and the Arab people would
maybe
notice that. That's what
maybe
I don't
I
know.
think I thought that Faisal wanted he wants the best for his people
Well,
and
because the conflict wasn't going to get him what he wanted in the end, and they were
right.
they
Well,
were infighting.
also there was there was a level to which that Lawrence like Lawrence wanted so much of the like independence and the like the control of your own destiny for the people,
Yeah,
but that he was being reckless with it too. Like there is
yeah,
a certain level of responsibility that comes with it. There is like the council was an example, I think, of how this kind of thing takes time to build, but also I think that like Lawrence, he kept leading them into these suicide missions, even though they weren't getting the weapons that they needed and all the other things. And everyone, Anthony Quinn at one point, and Sheriff Ali, they're all like, dude, like this is too much. We
yeah.
can't win
I
this.
remember when he went back to get the dude that fell off the camel. They were like, "It is
Yeah,
written. He is done. He's not going to make
yeah,
it, and you're going to kill yourself as our leader." And you're
right,
right. That is Sharif's play and portrayal of the character in this was so powerful for me because his delivery of lines and his anger and disdain for the reckless actions of Lawrence was
yeah,
so genuine and real when he would speak to him
yeah,
that I I was
Well,
even thinking, Lawrence, what the hell are you doing? You're gonna die. Like I remember saying that
well,
out loud. I was like, bro, don't go back
so
and get him. He's done.
what I like about that example is so Lawrence goes back for the guy, and then Lawrence has to kill that same guy. And
Such a fantastic story beat. Oh my
and it was
gosh, it is so good.
and the juxtaposition of Lawrence doesn't want someone to die needlessly. He wants to protect every life he can that
Yes.
doesn't have, and so he goes back and he saves them, and they all, even Sheriff Ali, they all are so happy that he saved the guy. Then that
They're happy
guy,
he did, but they were going to hold him hostage. Sorry, they were going to hold him responsible if something bad happened, just as bad as they
sure,
celebrated him being
sure,
triumphant and returning him.
sure, but then when he goes and commits whatever the crime was that was kind of in the scattered, and that they're like, and the two sides were like, we need justice, and the other side was like, if you take justice, we're going to take justice, and so and the only way to solve the problem is Lawrence to take the justice so that neither side is party to it.
Yep.
Lawrence does it, because it is
Oh,
what is needed to
when the
do.
tribal person was murdered. That's right.
Right, right. Lawrence does that because it's what is needed to be done in that moment to keep everybody together, and he hates it and likes it, and like he realizes
He's a
he likes the power.
complicated dude.
He hates that, like, because up until that point he despised unnecessary death. In that moment he does it because he feels it is necessary death, and that transforms him to realize that, like, he has the power that they don't have. Like, he can kill without there being
The same
reprisal.
consequence. Yeah.
He can, it like it throws him into demagogue role at that point. He becomes a
Mhm.
demagogue, and he gets way too high on his own supply.
Yeah, no, he
And
really does, especially the Aqaba. Like after they go to attack
yeah,
Aqaba, it is that's my tipping point when he goes to crazy warmonger and he's no longer the lovable get smart like Sterling Archer lovable asshole dope. Like
yeah,
it completely switches from that because now he's a little death in the eyes kind of thing, and they actually get a bunch of close up shots of his bloodshot eyes.
yeah,
And when it gets that close, it took me out of the action a little bit and took me out of the character a little bit because makeup had him so specifically sterling and pristine in his
yeah.
appearance that rarely did he ever look like he was actually in the desert. And that was probably intentional and artistic. I get that. But still, like, you don't have to pancake him like that and then have him be cleanly shaven on top of it. Like, it was a lot for me sometimes. So
Yeah.
that's my what could it have done better is if you're already going to put a white dude here because you're doing a historical biopic kind of thing, um, let's not make it too obvious, you know? But
Hmm.
then in the same way, do you think that was intentional and not just of its time? Like him being that perfectly shaven, that well made up, the eyeliner, the eyebrows being so well groomed, like his level of grooming was my big like that could have been done better, or do you think that was intentional film craft?
I think a lot of those things were done intentionally. I
Okay.
I I I, I
He's
always
almost prissy.
yes, and I'm always curious about when you look at something from another time on how they depict masculinity and stuff. And so I did
Yeah.
look. There is a lot of speculation that he was gay. Um, and there
Peter
is they definitely
O'Toole or T.E.
no
Lawrence?
T.E. Lawrence.
Okay. I'm going to call out on this. Omar Sharif crying.
Yeah,
That scene where Omar Sharif is crying and Abda Abu Tayi is yelling at him. I swore that there was going to be a homosexual like relationship or spike or romantic beat there. I really thought it was going to happen. And if that is the case, more of the way that Peter O'Toole depicted the way Lawrence would walk and the way he would hold his hands down at his sides, the way he would kind of mince when he would walk. I actually thought it was kind of weird that he sat side saddle on the camel, but then when I noticed that all the Arab guys did it too, I thought that was a little less weird. And
So
also, homosexuality is hugely forbidden in Arab culture. Like,
yeah,
hugely, like, you got stoned for it back then.
yeah.
So,
Okay, so two things. One is Sheriff Ali, not a real character.
I
It's
know,
a
yeah.
composite of a bunch of other characters. Um, and there's a character that was a real person, Salim Ahmed, also known as Dahoum, and he was Lawrence's longtime companion, and very often he'd write poems to S.A. Salim Ahmed, Sheriff Ali. Like, I think there is something there. And there is speculation that he was, what does it say? His friends have expressed the opinion that he was asexual. Lawrence himself specifically denied any personal experience of sex in multiple private letters. There were suggestions that Lawrence had been intimate with his companion Salim Ahmed Dahoum, who worked with him at a pre-war archaeological dig in Carchemish, and fellow serviceman R.A.M. Guy, but his biographers and contemporaries found them unconvincing. So it's probably like there was enough speculation that they were like, let's play it into the movie a bit.
So, no,
Yeah.
there's a possibility that he was cool. Him being so well groomed, was that just part of the narcissism, probably? Or is that just
Well, I think
his Britishness?
I was gonna say it's probably part of like basic training, like, you keep
Because
shaved
the other
and
people were just as well groomed. They were like
Mhm.
anybody who was the British military were just as well groomed. None of them were, and I imagine that's entirely intentional because none of the grooming of the Arab folks was poor, but it was not clean shaven because beards were not vogue in the West during
right,
this time.
right.
Mustaches were, beards were not. So
It
having
also it
big facial hair was an Arab cultural icon.
Right, especially non-mustaches. Like there were some
Correct. Sorry.
mustaches in British Command, but it's also used to demark that he doesn't fit anymore when he tries to go back, and when he's like, I'm done, I want to
Yeah,
go back. After he's tortured, he's got scruff on his
he
cheeks,
does. That's right.
and
That's right.
he's in uniform, but he's got the scruff, and they're all like, good job, Lawrence. And then they're like, he lays it on a bit thick, doesn't he? And you're
Uh-huh.
like, oh, he doesn't fit. And that's like even though he's in
Oh, those two
uniform,
guys talking. I
that's
remember that. Yes, yes, yes,
mhm.
yes, yes. Yep. And then the other time when he takes when he gets back to, I think is it Jerusalem, and he gets the lemonade and they're trying to throw him
Yes.
out because it's an officer's bar and he's
Yep.
there with his only left alive compatriot
Yep.
and he's like, "Give me the lemonade." And no,
Yep.
that's for my friend. Like, give it to him first. Because he had gone full Arab at that point. Like, he's like, I
Yep.
don't even connect with these dudes anymore, but I know they can give me something I need and shelter. All right.
All right. Well, first of all, do we recommend the movie?
Yes.
Obviously, at this point, it's obvious that we do. Um, are you sure you don't want to give your ratings first? Because I feel like your ratings are a little less, maybe not less exciting, but less interesting, maybe in a way.
Yeah, mine are less interesting. So the only part that I disagreed with you on was fun and watchability. I gave it a 9 instead of a 10. And it's
Okay.
sort of the same reasons for Malcolm X. It is long. It is difficult to watch in one sitting. It is a big
Hmm.
time commitment, especially in 2026 with all the lives we have. It is a big commitment to get through this. My recommendation is do it in a minimum of 2 sittings or 3. That I did it in 2. That is what made it fun and watchable for me, because for me, fun and watchability isn't just about technical prowess. That's more quality, or like fun is And Mike and I have talked about it before. Do I want to put this on, or if it shows up on a network, I'm just going to sit down and enjoy it? Like that.
Yeah.
This film does not have that. It is an epic to be enjoyed, just like you sip whiskey slowly or enjoy a glass of wine over 20 minutes. Like it isn't quick. It isn't instant gratification. This film will give you gratification, but it is not going to be quick. And that's why my fun and watchability is not a 10. But quality, I agreed with you, 10. There is no doubt this deserved the awards that not only it was nominated for, but it also got.
Yeah. All right. So you kind of buried the lead on my thing because
I admit.
this is my first movie that's a perfect score. That's why I wanted you to go first. And then you said both of my scores just then.
I'm sorry, dude.
Don't worry about it. I gave it a perfect score because even though, yes, this movie's long, it has an
Why
intermission.
does it get a 10 for fun and watchability for you?
There was no moment in this movie where I wasn't enthralled. There's
But I agree
funny
with you on that.
lines.
I agree with
There
you
are
on that.
yeah, but it like it's there are funny moments. You're rooting for people. You're like,
Yeah,
like
that's true.
you go through all the emotions you want in a movie.
Mhm.
And it's not so, even when you're like the moments that are sad or upsetting, they're not so, you know, it's not Schindler's List where you're like, oh, like this is breaking me to watch this during the sad parts, or you know what I mean. Like it is that perfect ride of a emotional, like it's at no point am I bored. Um,
No.
and at no, so like so for me it was just like boom, this, either I'm at some point in the movie, at every point in the movie, I am feeling perfect about something, whether it's, oh, this story beat is perfect, or wow, look at that shot. Like, and I know that can be a
Yeah.
part of technical, but also like when it's done well, it's both enjoyable too. Like those moments of the sun, the sun setting, with the colors really being goldeny, reddish golden, like all of that was like, holy crap, this is like looking at an amazing painting or whatever. Like there is no moment in this movie where I was like, well, this probably didn't need to be here. Like
Yeah, no, you're right. I never felt that.
and so like, yes, it's long. I don't mind long. Like my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies of all time is The Godfather 2, which is only slightly shorter than this by like, I think like 10 minutes shorter. Uh, it has an intermission. So like if I saw this in theaters, you got your pee break, right? Like it's got everything. Like, so that's why I give it a perfect score on fun and watchability. Obviously, I don't need to convince you on quality. But I
No.
think that like this movie is this. When I'm done with this, not only am I adding it to my Cinemen list on Letterboxd, but I'm adding it to my top movies of all time because I
Yeah,
wanted to rewatch it
me as well.
to reconfirm that this is up there for me. This movie is not as high as Godfather 2 maybe for me, but
I'm
like
agreeing
if
with that.
I think that it's like pretty, I think
Get,
Casablanca might be up here with this.
so
Like there's a
Godfather
few
2
movies
would
where
be my perfect 10 because it's
yeah,
shorter, it's more succinct. I'm still rooting for characters. It still was nice to look at. Like it has a lot of those pieces that make it easier to recommend to just anybody. There's an
yeah,
example. When I think of fun and watchability, I think if I'm at work or I'm in a social setting and I'm going to recommend a film that I know that person will go and enjoy without me
yeah,
having to twist their arm too much, I can get someone to watch Godfather Part 2 before I can get someone to watch Lawrence of Arabia. There's why it's not a 10. I can't convey my passion and excitement for this and know that that person's going to go experience it without me there to hold their hand. That's when I think fun and watchability hits it out of the park, is when you know that person's going to go enjoy it too and then come back and tell you about it. The way you and I used to do before we started Cinnamon, the way you and I used to do about television and movies. Like you could
yeah,
recommend something to me or I could recommend something to you, and we connected enough on that level that we knew one of us was going to go watch it. And then we started doing this and it became something we're now uh, taking stock and making this something you all can come along with us on. But we were already doing this before. You could have recommended Lawrence of Arabia to me, and I would have told you to piss off because I know it's a great movie, but I don't have that much time. You could
Yeah.
recommend Godfather or eh, Empire Strikes Back, and I would go watch it if I hadn't seen any of the films in the series and I wasn't already a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, if you go tell me, oh, Malcolm X, I'd be like, I don't have like an entire afternoon. And I mean like the whole afternoon, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So first of all, I looked it up. Godfather 2 is 3 hours and 22 minutes. This is 3 hours and 47 minutes. So my 10 minutes difference was not correct. It's 25 minutes different. I get it. Like Godfather 2 to me is probably the best film ever made. But I also think that like there is like, especially like I have family who will not watch The Godfathers because of how it depicts Italians and like so I
Same.
think they're so like Lawrence of Arabia. I also like Logan sat down to watch Lawrence of Arabia with us.
The
He
whole
can't
thing.
watch God. He didn't watch the whole thing. He doesn't have the attention span for most
I
adult
barely have the
movies to
attention
watch
span.
the
I had to split this
yeah.
into two.
So even splitting it, he was didn't have the attention span. But
Yeah.
then Godfather 2, he couldn't watch. It's we couldn't. So like I do feel like Lawrence of Arabia. Like if I had wanted to go see this in theaters, Sarah and Logan may have gotten up to
Oh,
like
it's the same thing
go
with
to the
Holly.
arcade or whatever.
Yeah.
But like this, I don't know. I just think it's amazing.
Man, am I excited about this because the upcoming movie is Titanic. So I have made fun of this movie I've made fun of this movie for years because of all the joking, easy ways you can rib it for all the scenes that were in it. I have heard My Heart Will Go On way too many times working in retail, but I will say I have never experienced it front to back critically, ever.
Okay.
I've always just watched it because a girl wanted me to watch it, or because I've watched scenes from it, or watched SNL skits about it front to back. Critically, never.
Yep. I saw it when it was in theaters, so I was 13. My family, we all went because it was about to win Best Picture, or I don't know. We went to see it. So I've never rewatched it since. And then people talk about it, men and women both talk about how great it is. So I was like, oh yeah, well let's check that out. Also, I think that it's interesting with cinematography because of the way it's made. All right.
Yes.
And so if you haven't already, like and subscribe. We're doing these every week, but also you want notifications on them. You can usually watch ahead. We have some we're doing Titanic next week. We're doing Oppenheimer the week after. We're also doing a bonus episode that will be available for patrons early. And that will be all the 10 Best Picture nominees from this year. It will be out some point next week, and then by the time this goes up, it'll be out tomorrow, probably for patrons. But I'm going to probably post it for everybody else the morning of the Oscars.
Yeah.
And then you can, if you don't want to become a patron, you can just buy the collection of this entire year for $26. It's a one-time thing, and then any bonuses we throw out there, you can get that.
Yeah.
That is, I'll link to that in the show notes because I don't remember the Patreon link off the top of my head. But yeah, that's a great way to help us be able to keep seeing movies, is if you want to go do that. But yeah, liking and subscribing is the big thing that we want you to do. And also we haven't decided, but next week we will announce whatever our theme and movies are for next month, so that you can watch ahead with us if you want to.
We would appreciate that. Any support, whether it's free or paid, we are happy to have it, and we are excited that you guys are coming along on this journey. Join us next episode for Titanic, and do your best to hold on to the door.